Hey everyone, great to be with you here today. I'm going to talk a bit about leveraging artificial intelligence to enhance human creativity. And it's a very important topic because there's a lot of kind of negative narratives out there around artificial intelligence, removing people's jobs and getting rid of certain skills in the world. And there's a lot of work that's been shown out there where people are creating algorithms that are supposedly creative, and there's a lot of worry that those creative algorithms might replace humans. In fact, I don't believe that any of that is actually true, largely not true. And I think that there's an alternative narrative, there's an alternative way of working and doing, which is around developing AI the correct way to enhance human creativity, to enhance and unlock human potential. So I want to talk to you a little bit about some of the work I've been doing, the work we're going to do in the future around this topic of artificial intelligence enhancing human creativity. So as I said, there's a bit of a false narrative out there that in the future there'll be a battle between humans and machines. And I think this is a false narrative largely because of lack of understanding. People really don't understand what artificial intelligence is. They don't understand what machine learning is. And maybe because of sci-fi and other things, there's this dystopian negative narrative that's been latched onto in the popular media. And people that work in the field of machine learning, AI, and other areas have not done a good enough job providing good, positive counter narratives to this more dystopian narrative. So I'm going to share a little bit with you around the more positive narrative that we can provide, but I also want to give you a sense of what really is the key to understanding machine intelligence versus human intelligence. So that's what I want to talk a little bit now, is to give you a little sense or share with you my thinking on what machine quote unquote intelligence is, and even question if that is the right phrase or way of describing it. And maybe talk to you a little bit about human intelligence and how and why humans are intelligent beyond machines, or intelligent in different ways to machines. So largely, the algorithms and the machines and the output of the deep learning nets and all of those things, they know nothing. In fact, there's no knowledge there. There's no understanding. There's no wisdom. There's a complete inability to go beyond the very constrained and limited way that they're trained on certain data. Like you pose a question to one of these algorithms just a fraction outside of the way it's trained, and it has a complete inability to answer. And in fact, the algorithms themselves and the models that they're based on don't understand themselves the answers they give. They just give mathematical, probabilistic answers to a question based on how they've been trained. So this idea of intelligence, and I put it in quotation marks on purpose, is really very interesting. I think it's kind of not a correct phrase or way of describing how those algorithms operate today. And to even call it intelligence in comparison to the way humans are intelligent, the way we think, is not really the correct phrase to use at all, but it's been latched onto for 70 years or so. So this is a picture on the right of your typical deep learning net. This model, or this way of solving problems from an artificial point of view, is probably 70 years old or so. And it's based on an understanding of how the brain worked, or how people thought the brain worked at that time. So how do humans discern information from the world, extract information, develop insights, create pattern recognition, and then turn all of that into knowledge and understanding. So it's based on a very limited, very old view of the way the brain works from more than 70 years ago. But in recent times, the value has arisen because of computational power increases, access to massive amounts of data. And you combine the two of those, and all of a sudden, these machine learning algorithms are creating a lot of value in the workplace. But foundationally, fundamentally, the way they operate is quite an old concept and has not moved along with modern knowledge through neuroscience on the way the brain and the way humans think and human consciousness and things like that. So let's look at human intelligence maybe a little bit, and let's go through a kind of a thought experiment. And maybe let's even think about the concept that human intelligence resides in the brain. So here's a thought experiment. What would happen to the brain if it was not connected to the body? What function would the brain have? What utility would it have? What would it do? And in fact, the answer is the brain without connection to the body has very little utility. And the brain without the body is in fact nothing. So what the brain does is it takes sensory input from all of your various senses, and we show the standard 5 here in the bottom right figure. And it takes the information in from that different sensory perception that you have, and it ingests that in various ways, and it looks at patterns across that and then creates and makes sense out of that. And we can do lots of very useful things as humans, the way we've manipulated matter and created technology and all the things we do as humans, all comes out of the fact that the brain is a pattern recognition engine for input that it gets from your various senses. Those senses come from your body, and the brain on its own without a connection to the body doesn't have very much use at all. There's no human intelligence, no consciousness, no creativity without that sensory input of the brain connected to the body. So fundamentally, you can see here there's a very distinct difference between human intelligence, actual intelligence by definition, and what people call artificial or machine intelligence. These algorithms and machines do not have bodies, do not have all this different sensory perception, do not extract information from the world and connect to the world in all these different ways through the different senses. And therefore, by definition, if they even have intelligence, which I argue they don't, but even if they did, it would be a very different form of intelligence compared to a human. So maybe let's extend this a little further. Humans have more than 9 different types of intelligence. Humans have more than 9 different ways of thinking. How many different types of intelligence or ways of thinking does a machine have or does an algorithm have? Again, I don't actually have an answer to that. It's more of a question. I think it's, again, fundamentally different to the way humans have intelligence, the way humans think. And I would say it's also much more limited in comparison. So how can a machine be creative, whatever that means even, without all these different intelligence, without all these different ways of thinking? Let's take the human lived experience, right? The human lived experience per person and through evolution, through the human condition. How can a machine even compare to human intelligence when it doesn't have lived experience, doesn't sense the world the way we do, doesn't have some knowledge and aspects of our evolution baked into our genes and our physiology and our biology and our psychology, all these hundreds of thousands of years of evolution that we've gone through as humans to get to where we are. The machine has none of that, all right? And it doesn't even know what those things mean. If you tell a machine about those constructs, it fundamentally doesn't even understand what any of that stuff means. It means a machine doesn't know what creativity means. All right, so this idea of a machine being creative or a machine being intelligent, I think is fundamentally flawed. I think it's based on a lack of understanding of our humanity, a lack of understanding of the human brain and human intelligence. I think it's a or an unfortunate use of the word intelligence, which is really deeply linked to our humanity and the human condition. And I think a lot of these lack of understanding, misnaming of things, historically, the way things are talked about, a lot of this is combined to her today. There's a lot of fear and anxiety around artificial intelligence, and I think it's largely misplaced. I think there's false narratives out there in the popular media, and we need to provide in this community the right types of positive counter arguments to some of these false narratives. And that's in fact is something I'd like to share with you now in the rest of this talk. So to summarize this part of the talk, machine intelligence is absolutely not the same as human intelligence. And in fact, I would argue that intelligence is the wrong construct or the wrong naming for the value that a machine has or the way that it kind of synthesizes information in certain ways. And because of that, I truly believe that machines can never surpass human intelligence, the way we are intelligent as humans, which is distinctly different from the way machines are quote unquote intelligence. So I think machines might become more better than us at certain things, or they might become more intelligent than us, if you want to describe it that way, at certain things. But those things will be kind of non-human things, or they'll be better than us in non-human ways. So be able to do things at speed and at scale in a way that humans couldn't, but how they go beyond that is currently a mystery. And do the algorithms even know what it is they're really doing? So this is what intelligence should be by definition. So let's give some examples of some of the work I've done in the past with my previous employer, Nokia Bell Labs, where we worked with artists, and we worked with artists combining their creativity with our emerging technologies, and we showed how there's ways that technology can unlock human potential, and we showed how when you take the best of technology with the best of humanity, you can create value far beyond either on their own. So this is a project that we did with a beatboxer called Reaps One. A beatboxer is one of these people that can make their voice sound like a machine or a computer. And when we started working with Reaps One, he felt that he had reached the full capability of his voice. He had probably one of the most experimental in his genre that ever lived, one of the best that has ever lived. And he felt that he had kind of plateaued in his ability to push his voice in new directions. And he was breaking out and examining other types of creativity beyond the voice. And we worked with him on a project where we strongly felt that machine learning and AI had the potential to enhance human creativity. And we wanted to develop this project and this collaboration as a counterpoint to all of the negative discourse and lack of understanding around the potential of this technology out there in the media. So with Reefzone, what we did is we trained machine learning algorithms on his beatboxing. After a period of time, those algorithms reached a level of maturity where they could give him back sounds that kind of sounded like him, but yet were distinctly different. So the algorithms ended up creating sounds and techniques that he had never performed before in his life, even though he was the one as a human who trained those algorithms on his beatboxing. And then what we did is we turned this into a mechanism where he could real-time collaborate with what we were calling his second self. This was his AI digital beatboxing twin. And in the process of being able to real-time collaborate with this thing that was very much like him, yet distinctly different to him, he was able to extract those differences and turn those differences into knowledge, turn those differences into creative input. And he was able to, by his own words, level up his voice beyond where he thought it was possible, because he had this thing that was distinctly different to him, yet distinctly similar to him in different ways. And this is a prime example of how we took someone who's one of the most creative artists you can meet, one of the best in his genre, beatboxing, that has ever lived, one of the most experimental. And we gave him this ability to collaborate with a digital version of him that he created. And in turn, it ended up inspiring him to develop new techniques and new ways of developing his creative practice beyond what he ever believed was possible. So I'm just going to play a very short clip of this here where you can get a sense of that exchange between him and his second self. And I'll encourage you to look at this content more online. If you Google We Speak Music, Harry Yeff or Reefzone, you'll be able to view the whole piece. Okay, moving on, I'll give you another example. This is work we did with an artist called Su Gwen Chung, and Su Gwen for many years has been a pioneer in drawing collaborations with robots. So she'll often collaborate with robotic arms, industrial robotic arms that are, drawing out live patterns from different information feeds that she's gathered, and she will collaboratively live draw with them and then interpret that data in various different ways. So just really interesting work that Su Gwen does, collaborating with robots. And when Su Gwen worked with us as an artist in residence, we gave Su Gwen access to our machine vision algorithms. She worked very closely with our machine vision researchers who were developing machine vision algorithms to look at traffic patterns in very complex junctions in smart cities and big cities like New York and Shanghai and Boston and places like that. And when we started working with Su Gwen, she started asking questions of the algorithms and the way we were visualizing the data, the way we were thinking about the movement of people and things in those spaces. And she started pointing out to us that our algorithms were really kind of finely tuned on the movement of cars within these smart cities at these complex junctions. But we completely missed a lot of the knowledge that was there around how people were moving. So how people were interacting with the machines, the cars in this case, how people were reacting with other people, how people were reacting with themselves among and within this place, the city itself. And there was all this connection between the people to machines, and people to the place that we had completely missed in our way of thinking about where we could get insights from the smart city. And then on top of that, the way we were statistically analyzing the movement of those things was quite limited in comparison to the way Su Gwen was thinking about it. And she kind of opened us up to thinking about new types of statistical analysis that would help us get a better sense of the movement of the people in the space, like I mentioned. So working with Su Gwen was very interesting because as an artist, you took such a different perspective on it and was a much more human-centric perspective. And we ended up developing our algorithms in new ways. We ended up developing the visualization of the information that we were extracting from the smart city in new ways. And we ended up kind of thinking more and developing a longer term research roadmap around this concept of humans times machines. So how do you take the best of humanity, combine it with the best of technology, and create value with that combination beyond what you could do with either on their own? I'll give you another example of previous work that we did in this space is with an artist called Stephanie Jenkins, and this project was called Secret Garden. And this is an extended reality experience that was delivered both virtually and in a physical installation in New York. And here we combined Internet of Things, spatial audio, machine learning, AI, to create this extended reality experience that was meant to show what I call the virtues of the virtual. How can we build experiences in the virtual world that helps connect people in ways that they could never do otherwise? And with this particular experience, and again, I'd ask you to try and look this up online, Stephanie Jenkins' Secret Garden, and actually go through the XR experience yourself. You'll see that you can connect on an emotional level to people and to characters in this space and the way it's been designed in a way that you never could otherwise. And people that are very different to you, most likely, are very different lived experiences to you, very different stories to tell compared to you, come from very different communities to you, very diverse backgrounds compared to you, likely. And you enter this experience and you build this emotional connection with them through the use of these various emerging technologies, including the use of machine learning and AI. So I'll play you a little bit of this. At the start, it shows a clip from the extended reality virtual experience, and then it kind of merges into what the physical exhibit looked like. Okay, so where's a lot of this work going, just to kind of give you a sense and wrap up soon? There's a lot of, I put a lot of thinking into this idea when you deploy machine learning algorithms or machine learning technology, it kind of creates one of two narratives. One is either this dystopian narrative around job loss, which makes people very anxious, or it also creates this narrative around what people call freeing up people's time. Now, in actual fact, in comparison to the dystopian narrative around job loss, industry at the moment is deploying machine learning and AI to automate mundane tasks at a scale you wouldn't believe. And at the same time, we're hiring more people than we've ever hired in industry. So there's this false narrative about this technology replacing jobs or removing jobs or replacing our humanity with this technology. In fact, currently it's absolutely not happening. And I don't believe at a fundamental level that will actually happen. And so what it is actually doing is we are automating these mundane tasks. We are freeing up people's time. But how are we helping those people turn that free time into value creation time? What are the tools we're creating to help people be more creative? You can't just magically free up time and people become magically more creative or productive. We have to actually give them the tools to turn that free time into value creation time. So a lot of the work I'm doing in my new role with EY is to develop these techniques and tools to use the same kind of technology and algorithms where we automate the mundane, but help people turn that free time into value creation time. This is very exciting for me because I think this again shows the promise of the humans and machines examples that I've shown you in the past, where when we design the technology with both of those in mind, where we combine the best of both worlds, this is where we can really create value on a level we couldn't with either one. I also started up this new organization called the Cognitive Human Enterprise, and it's all about creating the most cognitively diverse organizations you can imagine by investing in full spectrum diversity and massively interdisciplinary skills and backgrounds with people. And as you've seen from some of the previous work I've shown you, one of the ways that I accelerate towards this maximum cognitive diversity is to bring the world of art and artists together with technologists and with engineers and scientists. And I truly believe that the future of human-centric innovation lies at the intersection of art and technology. And we're building out these programs at scale to be able to help others see the value in investing in people in this way and how you can create cognitive diversity and cognitive flexibility so that you can then start thinking about solving some of the world's biggest challenges ahead of us. So I'll do now very quickly, I'll just say, if you're watching the video of this, you can just pause it here and have a read through. This explains a little bit why I bring art and technology together, why I believe that's the right way to accelerate towards driving the change that we've talked about a little bit here. And just to wrap up then some of the key thoughts to have you take away and think about some more, think about in your work, is the fact that machine intelligence is absolutely nowhere near not the same as human intelligence. And in fact, intelligence, I think, is the wrong word. It drives us down the wrong path of thinking. It drives us to compare the machines to the humans. It drives us to think about the machines replacing the humans. And I think that is all just fundamentally wrong. And a lot of that actually is instigated from the use of the word intelligence. maybe we need to think about that a little bit. I think machines will never surpass human intelligence. They can't by definition because they don't think currently. They will never think the way we do. They don't have bodies to connect to the world around us, and therefore, by definition, they can't possibly have the same intelligence as us, and nor can they therefore then surpass our intelligence. But machines will be better than humans at certain things, for sure. Currently is the case today, will be the case even more in the future. And then the big question is, how do we design solutions that take the best of humanity, with humans at the center, humans in mind, always at the center of our existence? Obviously, that should be the case. How do we combine it with the best attributes of technology? And how do we create new value? And how do we unlock human potential? How do we unlock human creativity with the purposeful combination of humans and machines? So it's not humans versus machines, it's human and machines. And if you're interested in any of these topics and like to dig a little deeper, reach out to me on various social media platforms, and we can certainly share more. So with that, I'd like to, thank you for your time. Thank you for thinking about some of these topics with me, and hope you enjoy the rest of the event.